Welcome to another episode of Quiet Please, our golf podcast. I am Allen DePuy. As always, each week we get together, our panel, just have a free-flowing conversation about the top topics in the golf industry, as well as introduce a few guests to our panel on occasion. I think live golf news, big this week, especially on the heels with the PGA Championship coming up. Talor Gooch. I mentioned the PGA Championship. We got to have some conversation regarding Brooks and Rory down there Kentucky way. And we're going to be introducing you to a new product. But before we jump to that, let me just introduce to my left, Boston Bob Baldassari. We call him Bourbon Bob because he's living in Kentucky now. And he was down Kentucky way. I want to get your insight on the Derby there, my friend.
Coming down the stretch. The photo finish.
Down the stretch. It was a good down the stretch, by the way. To my lower left, Christian Nizamis, prettiest podcaster in golf.
What's up, boys?
Hello, young man. Good to see you. And rounding out our panel this week, Mike Middleton from Straight Shooter. And you know what? We're actually getting knowledge about what's going on in the golf industry one day into the future because Mike's over in Australia right now.
Thanks for the invite, Al, and the rest of the panel. Great to be
here. Absolutely. So you're actually a day ahead of us. We appreciate you hopping on to chat with us. Yeah. And before we hit record, we were talking. Let's dive right into. Actually, Bobby, let's dive into the Kentucky Derby. We'll just talk a little personal time before we get into the golf world. You were there. I mean, you were standing almost. Which turn were you standing in?
I did truth be told, I was at Keeneland racetrack over here in Lexington, but it felt like I was at the Kentucky Derby because
Wait a minute, I thought you were at the Derby.
It was a little. No, I was drinking mint juleps.
I was going to say, were you drinking and thought you were at the Derby?
Maybe, yeah. It was a great time. I want to tell you what, I watched that Kentucky Derby like many people on TV for years, but I wasn't at Churchill, but I was at Keeneland. And it's had thousands and thousands of people there. You really felt like you were at the Derby. And when they play that old Kentucky home song, and there's thousands of people singing it, and people are wiping away tears, I thought, this is amazing. This is a really great experience. And then on the big, huge screen TV right at the track, I mean, to see the race and take it in, for a few seconds, you feel like you're at Churchill. You feel like you're part of the Derby. And it was a great experience.
Well, and Andy actually was, and I think that's probably why he's not on this week, Christian, is because he's probably trying to recover. He was at the Q Mixers booth, and they were probably pouring a few Q Mixers and making a few cocktails.
If there was one person who probably didn't know where he was, it was probably Andy. He had definitely one too many Q Mixers.
Mike, are you into horse racing at all? Does the Derby resonate over in Australia as much as it does here?
Well, it certainly comes up on the radar occasionally, Al. But the big race you'd know of possibly is the Melbourne Cup, and and that's in November each year. And they say it's the race that stops the nation. Not that we've got anywhere near the numbers of people in Australia that you've got in the US, but yeah, the whole nation seems to stop. Work stops, everything stops, and they watch the race. So I think it's pretty well the same as the Derby.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to watch it. And Bobby, what a finish, right?
Unbelievable. Like just since 1947, the closest finish. And unfortunately, the only bad thing about the experience, I didn't have the winning horse. I didn't have the winning two horses. I didn't do a very good job on the betting, but what are you going to do?
I'm going to tell you right now that I have a frustrated little Italian wife that is upset because Mystic Dan, although she was happy for the underdog, Mystic Dan wrecked her trifecta.
Tough to be.
Oh well. Say la vie. Oh well. You know who may wreck the show, Christian, down in Valhalla is Talor Gooch. Do you think that's going to happen? I'm setting you up early. I'm setting you up early in the podcast.
Do I think Talor Gooch is going to what?
Talor Gooch. Is he gonna ruin the dance? They gave him an invite.
No, he's not going to ruin the dance. People aren't even going to know he was there. He'll be there for 4 days, and then he's going to go right back home.
So you're at least saying he makes the cut.
No. The 4 days are including arriving on site and then leaving on Friday afternoon.
Really?
Yes.
So before we hit record, Mike was sharing with us that and I meant to ask, I think I actually asked you this beforehand, but while we're talking, so our guests can hear or our listeners can hear, it seems to me that live really resonates in Australia, and I was just curious as to what's your impression as to maybe why live is resonating a little bit more there than it is here in the States.
Well, Al, it's the vibe that I'm getting, and I read a lot, and and these sorts of events and that come up on the radar, and because I've got this special interest in golf myself. It would appear that we've been starved of high quality golf, Al, in the past. We've had the President's Cup here, I think. It was called the President's Cup.
Sure.
So they picked Aussies in it and all the rest of it to play. But it just because there's been a starving of the Australian golf community, and when you see people pouring beer on the players when they're coming up and finishing and so on, I thought that's Australia's had a bit of a boozy thing going too for a long time, since we were way back when the colony was first started. So maybe that's a bit of a flow on, Al, from then. The rum rebellion. Do you ever read about the rum rebellion here? Well, maybe we're seeing signs of generations past showing up. But people love, we just don't get enough high quality golf and coverage of it. So I think people just love the event.
Bobby, from the PGA's perspective, adding Talor Gooch to the field, good move, bad move, the correct move he's still a world-class player, despite Christian's opinion.
Yeah, just but be interested in have Christian go to the Valhalla and follow Talor Gooch and just be yelling, and that'd be worth the admission right there. But if you step back,
it might be short-lived though.
Yeah. Of all the four majors, the PGA will do the most invites, the most interesting, cast the wider net over time. And so not overly surprised in some regards, just because of past invites and how they look at things. They've got their criteria, but then there's always 2 or 3 or 4 names, or they try to get somebody that might not be.
Christian, I think Bobby's freezing. He's suffering from Andy Heidorn's.
Kevin's gone to the PGA Championship.
Bobby, you're freezing. That storm going through Kentucky is messing with your internet.
It's no joke. These Kentucky storms. That's why you drink a lot of bourbon and not get scared.
Calm the nerves.
I don't know where I left off. Shoot.
The PGA casting a wide net. Let's go pick it up from there.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. The PGA does tend to cast a wider net on invites than the Masters, the British Open, with the Open Championship, than the U.S. Open. So not surprised there. I don't know. Interesting if he's going to play well, if he feels like there's a lot of self-inflicted pressure for Talor Gooch to play. I'm going to be interested to see how Rory plays. He won it in 2012. By every calculation, measurement, data point, he's a better player than he was back then. But why hasn't he won a major? It's kind of crazy.
Christian, Louis Oosthuizen did not accept the invite.
I just don't understand that personally. I don't even understand the Talor Gooch accepting it personally, just because he was very adamant in his press conference that he said that he's not even going to try and qualify. So for me, I don't understand either. Especially more Louis Oosthuizen, who I thought for sure. It's an honor to be asked to play. And the fact that he didn't, it just kind of goes to show some guys, personally, I feel like on LIV are not wanting and capable of playing the quality of golf that they once were playing, because they have the big, fat paychecks that they have and that kind of stuff. So that's my thought process behind it. If I was in both of their shoes, I would be not saying what Talor Gooch said, and I would be jumping on the opportunity, because you get the viewership that you're not getting the viewership playing on Live here in the States, but you are going to get it for a major championship, let alone the PGA, the Masters, US Open, or the Open, whatever the four is. Yeah, that's my thought process on
it. And Mike, one player that is certainly rejuvenated his game, and I've been a huge fan of him since day one, is Cam Smith.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts? What are you hearing down there in Australia regarding his outlook or mindset leading into the majors?
I haven't seen a lot of commentary. I mean, I tend to watch the results, Al, and just see how he's going after he won the British Open. Things then not exploded, but blew up in our thought processes, because then he left and went to Live. And I just, you get occasional commentaries, and a thing that interacts with my thoughts occasionally is why are people doing it? And you might remember there was a chappie here years ago that really pulled the carpet out of cricket. Now, cricket's sort of deemed to be our national game here. We've got the World Cup cricket over your way this year. You probably heard, for the T20s. Mm-hmm. But I've been in sports administration too, Mike, for a long time. I won't say I've got into trouble, but I'm always pushing, looking for ways to make the game, whatever it might happen to be, more enjoyable, so people, help their performance, but make it enjoyable so people get out and want to play. Another notion, so we had this chappie that went to a World Series cricket, and it really upset the establishment in the cricket game. But come back to golf, the other interesting notion, I think they're only playing 3 rounds, aren't they? So as compared to 4, like 72 holes, they're playing 54 holes. I've got a bit of a background in sports injuries, sports medicine, so we all know it, wear and tear on your body, etc., etc. I'm wondering why some of the top golfers are saying, I'm not playing as much golf. I'm getting some good results, but I'm not playing as much golf. But I'm still getting out there and going to great places and playing with mates and all the rest of it. So it's an interesting mix, Al. I'm keeping a sound eye on it myself.
Right. So, well, that's an interesting point, is because since John Rahm has moved to Live, and I think we've chatted on this or touched on it before on the show, is since Rahm's come back, the conversation has shifted more to, hey, maybe we should play some 72-hole events, and maybe we should. Yeah. So that in itself is going to be interesting. Bobby, again, leaning on your inner workings of the PGA, you're there in Kentucky. Valhalla. I mean, is it ready to go?
Yeah, by all accounts.
And is Brooksy ready to defend?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think on a recent show we talked about this. Like, with Rory won a team event. So did he really win, or because a team event? How does that figure in? But I think the psyche is, hey, I won. I've got confidence. Brooks, I think he just recently won another event, so he won. So that guy seems to just get up for the big events. He's a big game hunter. I think he plays, you never know if he's going to win, but I think he acquits himself well. I bet he makes the cut and has a good defense, and he's into that stuff. And from everything I know from people who have been out at Valhalla, it's looking really, really good. It's going to play different. Georgia fairways, they've done a lot of tree clearing, but it should sell. Man.
The likelihood, let's put it this way, the likelihood is Christian's going to be putting money on Brooks Koepka once again on his daily sports bet, aren't you, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, how do you obviously from a Brooks standpoint, I mean, I've been saying it for a while now. He is the only player, in my opinion, besides maybe John Rahm on Live, that can actually win. I mean, it's hard right now to bet against Scotty because Scotty is the top player in the world for a reason. Um, and I obviously know that he's going to be a favorite going into that, but it's definitely going to be tough to beat him for sure. But I think if there's anybody that can do it, obviously it's Brooks.
Right. Right. And Scotty is going to come in fresh. I believe he's is he taking off he's taking off this week, right? I believe so.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. No matter what, whoever wins, watch how I'm going to do this, Bob. Whoever wins is going to have to hit it straight. And there's no better way to hit it straight than with straight shooter.
One of the best segues you've ever had.
Thank you so much. And we have the man himself. And by the way, the coolest thing about this, I didn't realize about the pickleball concept. I mean, I want to hear more about that. But Mike, straight shooter. It is a flexible lead arm teaching aid that you have introducing or are introducing, and you're bringing it here to the States. And I think you've even said there's a couple other iterations. I'll just shut up here in a second to let you explain it, but it looks very, very cool.
Thanks, Al. It's look, it's the end result at this point, like a lovely journey. I haven't written a book about the journey yet, and a few people have said that to me. When are you going to write your book? But and a lot of good people in their lives, they write first version, and then they write second and third. But look, it's probably it comes out of cricket. I'm a level 3 cricket coach and still doing a bit of work in that field. But when I gave playing cricket away, people were actually buying the early version, the cricket version, putting on their lead arm, which is a brace. So it braced your arm fully extended. And even myself, we go up to the local practice range, hit balls, and I couldn't get over how more accurate I was. And I thought to myself, because I took up golf fairly late in life, and I was having the typical problem of if you don't get all those synchronization points right, push the ball out, fade it, maybe hook it occasionally. And so I started down the track of how can I develop this thing so it could give me value on the lead arm. But the critical thing, Al, is what happens after impact. You can't hit through the shot with a fully extended, non-flexing arm. And so it's taken a while, and I've got historical notes of it, that I even found a part of my wife's clothesline one time. I thought, I've got the answer, and I pulled the clothesline apart. But the critical part of the human anatomy is the elbow joint for me,
right.
Because how do you, and then synchronizing so you don't interfere with the movements around the wrist and the forearm and the hand. So I'm a great reader and a great thinker. I wake up pretty early most mornings trying to solve problems, but we're pretty excited with the end result. And got a great mate that's been with me for quite a while, an engineer. So you may remember it's a tight fitting sleeve designed to give you feedback through your skin. A muscle memory is something that you fellas would probably grab with and think about pretty well a lot of the time. So it's a muscle memory thing. And the reinforced pre-tensioned spring either side of your elbow point, that took us a while for us to develop that. And in combination, you've got this series of sizes to accommodate the fact that the human body comes in all shapes and sizes. That's been part of the journey and taken us a little while to perfect that.
So I just want to chime in. Growing up playing the game, obviously, I wasn't one of those guys who use 1,000 gadgets, but I used popular at the time was like Ledbetter Swing Link, and there's a couple other things. This I find, and that was actually going to be my very first question, Mike, was how does it? I can understand the backswing, obviously, after impact, how does is the softer flexibility of the sleeve allows the arm to fold as you turn through the ball, or how does that's the part I was really intrigued as I was doing some research before hopping online.
Yeah. So the trick was to find, and we've just I've got one here. If you wanted me to put it up, but the trick, the real invention, Al, is it's a double springing system. So we've got an internal spring inside a spring. We've got two of those sets per straight shooter. One sits either side of your elbow joint at the back of the arm.
Okay.
And they're tensioned the same way. It's a bit of mathematics and physics and engineering in it. The idea is that it won't stop you bending your arm. So when you take away, you can still bend your arm, but it's designed to remind you where that ideal lead arm extension should be. We've come across a few coaches said, well, hang on, what if I want to do this? Well, it's trying to retract and get you back and remind you that the ideal arm position is out like in the extended spot. But then once you come back down through impact, and it depends which guru coaches we can talk to, how important are straight arms leading into impact and just after impact. And then the trick, Al, is having enough flexibility in it so it's not too highly tensioned, but it still allows you to fold naturally.
Bobby, you've actually witnessed firsthand. I mean, and some of your members there at the Woodford Club, they've actually been using some prototypes or.
Yeah. So I had met Mike some time ago, and he sent me over some of the straight shooters. And I know he originally had invented this, and he's got a background in functional anatomy, biomechanics, psychology. So the guy physically knows what's happening in the body. Golf for 25 years, really neat background to come up with this device. I had people of men and women, low handicap, high handicap, trying this. The one thing, and they had great feedback, like, wow, it's real life feedback. It's real life swinging the club feedback. It's one of the best training aids I've seen in that regard. It's really brilliant. But the things that I was blown away at, and by mistake almost, I had people chipping and putting and hitting pitch shots with this. That was even the better feedback and I'm watching them do it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. That lead arm with the putting, with the chipping, with the pitching. I just thought, this is amazing. This is great. We got to get this out there to more people.
Mike, was that your intention even to carry it over into other components of the game? I mean, as Bobby said, you're a golfer yourself. You're looking at it from the swing, initially adapted out of cricket. But did you see it also becoming for use in putting, for use in chipping, or it's just the overall swing?
Well, look, the whole idea, Al, came out of I'm sure all you fellas will identify with this, but I'm a mad reader, and I was in a bookstore in a book sale, and the typical book, how to improve your golf swing. I thought, oh, beauty, I need that. And of course, it's full of Tiger Woods and Ernie Els and Johnny Millers and all these people. And my observation at that time was, what are all these guys doing that are the gun golfers, and why are they hitting it so straight? And the one thing that was common in probably 98% of them was they all had this straight lead arm. So I'd mucked around with this brace on the other arm, your trail arm, put it, and a lot of golfers in my club here were buying the brace, and then they were more or less saying, well, what in the hell's next? So it took me a while. As I said, I was pulling clotheslines apart and playing with all sorts of different ideas until one day, they call it the eureka moment, and it just snapped. I thought, a spring, because a spring can allow bending and flexing in different planes and spirals, tensions and all sorts of things. And we started then with my engineering mate, Dave, we just kept working different models till we got to where we are today.
You mentioned that you have one right there.
Yeah.
For Christian. Christian may need this. I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
hang on. I'll just give it to him there, Chris.
I need that. You need that, Alan.
I need a shoulder turn, Christian.
Yeah, I know. You got to hit the ball
There's a
for
reason
20
I'm wearing
yards.
grumpy golf.
And another thing that happened, Al, was that we initially came up with just the one size, and we've coloured them. We've colour coded them. I've got a large one here. It's not probably large enough for Arnie Schwarzenegger, but I'm not sure Arnie even plays. But the whole idea has been, how do we accommodate the human race? So
Sure.
the stretchy neoprene, like wetsuit material, it needs to be tight. Have you heard proprioceptors? You've come across proprioceptors, special nerve endings that tell you where all your body parts are and gets back into your head. And so this is muscle memory stuff. So we've come up with different sizes, different tensions, but basically when you buy the medium, this is a medium, the blue, it's got a certain amount of tension in it. I've even seen some blokes saying, we could take these to the gym, and do some muscle development work. But the trick, Al, has been to get the tension proportional to the size. So that's sort of the mechanical side of it. Now,
Bobby,
there's another, yeah, I bet
go
maybe
ahead,
Bob
Mike.
would like to comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right. So another feature of it is that the steel rods weigh a little bit. It's about a pound. The medium weighs a pound. Now, if you think about it at the top of your backswing, and you've got to change direction, you know the term momentum. So you've got to change momentum to come back down and hit your ball. The beautiful thing that's come out of this, and I've got to admit in front of you guys, is that it wasn't in my thinking initially, but when you've got something, I've even got a gadget at home that my golf bag that I put around, you'd know it's like a donut with a little bit of weight in it. You can put it up, and it's like a little warm-up tool you can put on the end of your club to give you a bit more momentum or whatever, or tempo. But if you get to the top of your swing, when you stretch a muscle at the top of the backswing, it actually, just muscle physiology, it allows you to apply more power to your shot. So, and even our TrackMan testing has shown that. So you're stretching at the top fractionally more because you've got the the straight shooter at least on, stretches a little bit more power, bang. And so the smash factor figures and so on out of the formal testing we've had done shows that's happening. So we're quite excited, Al, about that extra little tidbit of science that's been added to it.
That's why I could help you, Alan.
Bobby, there's a lot. I need a lot more. I need a complete game makeover, my friend.
You need a straight shooter. You need a cue mixer. What else?
No, but I love the concept of it, because I think the fail for most, Mike touched on it. I could show the camera here a wealth of different golf books that have been, I bought over the years, and they're like, oh, do this, oh, do that, oh, do this. And yes, I will get a shameless plug, go see your PGA golf professional, and they can work with you and what have you. But if you do not have the feel, then the feel is so important for transitioning that to the proper mechanics to execute the shot. Do you agree, esteemed PGA member?
Totally. It's lightning's flashing all around me. I hope I don't lose you.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it was interesting because you remember on one of our shows, Jane Blaylock talked about the most important thing in golf was feel. She was the only one, as we were quizzing a lot of top players. It was Andy's hot seat thing, and that's what I was getting at earlier. When you put on the straight shooter, you have that on your arm. You're doing a golf motion, whether it's putting, chipping, pitching, tee shot, and you get that immediate feedback, which I think correlates to an easier sense of how to correct, an easier sense to get internal feedback from yourself, how to make a correction or an improvement. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of good books out there. You read the book. I go back to this. You could read all the books you want on how to do a bull riding, but you got to get on the bull. And so you read all the golf books you want, but you got to make the golf swing. And that's the straight shooter was this immediate feedback, which I thought was so brilliant.
So Al, I'm certainly not here representing the product and saying, you know, it's the be all and end all of the, you guys that know it, you're the gurus, but it's not, it's helping with an important part of the swing. But what the number of times I've, even with playmates and relos, you get on the first tee and everybody's shaking and quivering. Oh no, the boys are going to give me a hard time. And the good thing about straight shooter, I think, is, and the way one of the ways you can get to use it and get to know it, go and play a couple of holes, say 9 holes, go and play 9 holes, but play a couple without it on, see how your game is, put it on for another few holes, and then take it off for the last couple of holes and see what's happened. I'm a bit cheeky with it, Al, too. People say, oh, can we wear it in competition? And I said, well, if you've got a big bulky jumper on, you could probably do it. Nobody know you've got it on, but that's a bit naughty. But even people, good friends who have got them, they've said, oh, can I? And they've taken this. You can take the springing system out. So I've got one here with the spring. You just take it out, and there it is. It goes back in. You take it out to give the sleeve a wash occasionally. But the tension around the skin, I've gone right into neuroscience, so I might even do some more university work yet, and my wife will challenge me about that. How many uni degrees can you do? But I'm really psyched up about what happens in your arm and so on, and what's up here going on. But the top proprioception fellow, proprioceptors are special nerve endings, but when your muscles are stretched, there's a muscle spindle fiber around every striated muscle fiber. When you stretch the muscle, it sends a message to say, hey, you've just stretched your muscle.
Right.
And so all this feedback from the skin itself, like the sleeve, is important. So the top proprioception guy in Australia says probably the most important part of it is that the feel, as Bob's saying, the feel that you're getting out of where your arms and so on are. Bit scientific, Al, but
yeah,
that's part of the basis.
Like I'm already sold. And I'm just gonna throw one last one to Christian. Just Christian on. I mean, can you see the applications on the short game?
Oh, of course, absolutely. And I could think of already. I mean, having something like this when I was in college, for example, would have been a game changer for myself personally, but others as well. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, I love it. But here's the interesting question. Before we hit record, we were talking about the PGA merchandise show. I'm sorry we missed each other in the crowds down there.
Yeah.
What were you saying about pickleball?
Well, I've got a really good mate here near Newcastle, and he's a tennis coach. We've got a big white goods manufacturer or big merchandising guy in Australia, and he rang up and he said, could you make us one? Could you make us one for tennis? And I said, oh, hang on. So I went to my tennis coach mate, and he's got one because he tries to play a bit of golf. That'll rub him up, Al, if he hears that I'm having a go at him about his golf. But he's a reasonable golfer, but he's a mad tennis player. But all of a sudden, he's had a reinvention of his life, and he's gone into pickleball, which is, you know, this paddle tennisy thing.
Yeah, it's the rage, right?
Yeah, and that blew me away at the PGA show. I thought, what? Hang on, we're at a golf show. What's pickleball doing? So now I've just got some. I think Bob saw it. I sent through. Just got some. They're doing a bit of research on it at the moment. So pickleball, the pickleball coaches and that, they've got it on the opposite arm. They've got it on the arm holding the bat.
Right.
But that's the beauty of straight shooter too, Al. Like I've got coaches here, head golf coach for the local regional academy of sport, and he said, well, take it off that arm, put it over here, and look what it can do for you on that arm. So it's what we've got to, Al, it's a multi-purpose tool within golf, but it's starting to show its head a little bit in in other sports. I think personally, any sport where there's an arm involved, there may be an application.
I can absolutely see that. Bobby?
Yeah, it was fascinating about the pickleball use and how that can work. I didn't quite think about it like Mike had said, but he sent me the article and I started thinking, yeah, anything stick and ball, racket, there is that application, and then bringing it back to golf. There's a lot of misconceptions on how to learn to play. What do you say, not say, the instruction part. I just like people trying to be as natural as possible. I do talk about, that having an extension when you take the club away. But, I start thinking back, how many times have I put my hands on the club? I help somebody move it back and feel that extension. And then they go, oh, that's what it feels like, the feel. I
Right.
sit there all day, 1,000, 10,000 words. It's different than in 3 seconds of moving somebody's arm. So that's why I thought the straight shooter, Mike was really onto something. Good on you, mate.
I would echo. I'm just being introduced to it over the last week, and I'm loving what I'm loving what I'm seeing, because I agree. I think it's that aha moment that you mentioned, Mike. That flexibility, that flexibility for the swing is amazing.
Yeah. Look, I'm quite blessed in the life I've got, and I don't know why. I'm sort of known as a bit of a person with different ideas, but Bob's been wonderful in this exercise. I've got to give him a lot of credit, but we lobbed at the PGA show, and just to follow it on, one of the groups I wanted to talk to was the United Inventors Association. And pretty well the first thing that happened was when I showed the gentleman what it was, he said, have you thought about this in baseball? And
Absolutely.
And we have, because if you think about the baseball swing and the golf swing, there's not a lot of difference. And I've heard there's even top baseballers having golf lessons. So I just love to think, Al, that, I'm really focused on golf. But,
sure.
But I'd love to think into the future, whoever we are that does this together, that we could have a big impact sort of in the sports world. But my number one priority is let's get golf firing and then see what else might happen.
So, Mike, how does our listeners find you? You might have noticed too, Bob, but our new website is www.straightshooter, all one word, .au for Australia, straightshooter.au. And Bobby, you would completely say hop over to straightshooter.au and check this out.
Wicked fast. And check it out. And you'll do yourself a favor, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Hey, Mike, really appreciate you coming on to chatting about this. We're gonna move to the 18th green because Christian's got his final thoughts. You get to go first, young man.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
So first off, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. It was great to obviously learn about Straight Shooter. You're welcome on any time. I would love to obviously continue to talk offline or even having you back on to talk further about it, because I think what you have is a phenomenal product. And maybe one day, obviously, if we can ever get together in person, I can try it out. I would love to. So just thank you very much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. And secondly, for all of our viewers that are listening, I say it every week, but continue please to follow us on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We have a lot of great guests that come on the show, like Mike, and we're excited to have more down the road. So please continue to follow us, as we're going to have a great year ahead. And that was my final thought.
Many thanks, Christian.
Bobby?
Yeah, so breaking news. Next week's show will be coming live from Orange, Australia with Mike. We're taking the show on the road down under. Now, we're picking up on what Christian said. We actually are back into quite a flurry of guests coming on. I think we've got a guest booked the next month or so. A lot of big names, a lot of really, really, really interesting stuff. So definitely tune in. And I'm gonna take a little page out of my buddy Andy Hydorn's. Don't be that guy. This is gonna be, don't be that group in the charity nonprofit golf outings that's the last one in by an hour, which happened tonight at my club. And it's like, come on, really? You're gonna be 1 hour late and then turn in the scorecard and wonder why, like, everybody, nobody's there. And so many times, I don't know how many this happened to many of my fellow PGA or LPGA pros, but a lot of times it's, you wait for that last scorecard and you think they've left the planet, they're not coming in. You post, you put the first, second, third up there, and sure as blank, 2 minutes later, they come in with a scorecard, and it's the second place score.
Of course it is. And they weren't playing any extra holes whatsoever.
No,
not at all.
Yeah, but and thanks so much, mate, for coming on. We'll be back in touch with you.
Mike, would you like to chime in with final thought?
Look, I'm almost speechless, and people that know me say, Middleton not talking. It's wonderful, and we've sort of lingered a little bit, Al, in Australia. Australia's a fairly conservative sort of country, and we're just we want to get back to the US. And look, Bob's been tremendous in giving leads and help to us to get a leg in. So keep an eye out for us. We're heading back. I've been thinking about writing a little article. Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future, and I'm thinking Michael R. Middleton, Back to the Future. I'm going back to America because my future's in America. It's not in Australia. So yeah, look, great to catch up, fellas. And Christian, I'll get organised and get one over to you.
I love that.
Yeah, and Al, even if you needed one, like to try one,
I'll
get it organised.
I would love that, because actually at the club that I manage, we have a tremendous PGA, LPGA teaching professional, and she's been recognized in New Jersey for her work. And she would love to probably try this out with maybe a couple of her students. I know I can think of a couple of kids that would be right out of the gate without question.
Yeah.
Hey, really appreciate you coming on. My final thought is, before we sign off, is yesterday, actually, I think it was, I might be off by a day, was National Golf Day here in the US. And that's when golf course owners across in different associations and those affected by golf all travel to Washington, D.C. to make the representatives in Congress aware of just what golf does bring to the fabric of not only our communities, but economically. And I just want to give a shout out to Jay Karen and the National Golf Course Owners Association, as well as all those owners that were able to make it down to DC. Keep working it. Keep working it hard. You guys are doing great things for the golf industry. So that's my final thought.
Yeah.
Good one. That's a good one. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Christian, I understand you're going to have a visit with baby Grayson. Enjoy it.
Can't wait to see him.
Yeah.
All right. Till next week.
Okay.
They don't